those fees are going to be dropped because they had too much money.
Dave, what's somewhat I think disappointing about this, though, is albeit that they're going to drop the pricing, 50% for veterans. The problem is they still can't talk to their doctors and say, I have a medical marijuana card.
Exactly.
I'm treating my symptoms with medical cannabis, because if they go to a doctor's appointment at the VA and they disclose to the VA that they're using medical cannabis, they will lose their VA benefits. And this is one of the bigger concerns that's being talked about in all of the states that are medical marijuana states, and even those that aren't, where there are people who are using marijuana to treat their symptoms because they just know that it helps them when the prescriptions that they've been given can't. So, albeit that I applaud Will Humble and the Arizona Department of Health for being kind and forward-looking where the pocketbook is concerned, it's really not forward-looking enough yet, because it's not really taking into account what would happen if the veterans take that one step further with that card and actually disclose. And I know just recently an Arizona judge did make the ruling that PTSD needed to be considered as a qualifying condition, and that's great. But ironically, Will Humble and the Arizona Department of Health, they still have the ability to appeal that. They can still yet decline that, and I think that's that's somewhat disturbing to me. I mean, Kathy.
Well, fortunately, were you able to get down there at all, Darren, on Thursday? I couldn't because I was at work, and I hope tons of people went down to the Phoenix Veterans Home at 10 a.m. on Thursday, yesterday, to voice their support of this motion by this judge. We do have 12 states in the union that have gone ahead and okayed PTSD. I believe it's at 12 currently. Yes. And Darren, you don't know this yet. This is new info. But I got a call yesterday from a veteran who, at the Phoenix VA, who has now been referred coincidentally to the Gilbert Southeast location of the Veterans Administration, which is very convenient for me. It's about a mile from my home. Was told by his primary care physician that the 2 morphine pills that he takes a day to control his pain, if he couples that to suppress, having to take any more than just 2, he couples that with medical marijuana. His primary care physician told him that he would die if he takes that medical marijuana with the morphine tabs. So that's our new as the Arizona's Veteran Assistance Committee. Darren, I think we probably need to do something about this. And I understand this has come to McCain's desk, and this fellow also has records of all the times he's been put off for his health care in the last 3 to 5 years. And he's an older vet that really needs care. And this to me is just too much, because you get these folks that go and they serve us, and then we have enough money for bombs. We have plenty of money for bombs, but not enough money to take care of our folks.
That's a great point, with the coinciding obviously with the scandal that's going on with the VA, and then we have granted what it sounds like to me, and what I've observed is PTSD is one of the highest reasons for a returning vet to go to the VA to begin with. So now we have such a huge amount of vets that don't get seen to begin with. Could you imagine that the most efficacious, from what it appears, treatment of PTSD is cannabis? And if they're so short-staffed, wouldn't it behoove them to offer a safer alternative that they're certainly not going to harm themselves off of? And when we get back, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we will have Darren Babin from Normal in Phoenix and Kathy Inman from Normal in Arizona. Stay tuned, folks.
More State of Cannabis on CannabisRadio.com when we return.
Hi, I'm Montel Williams. Most of you know me as a talk show host, but I'm also an author, actor, single father of 4, a fitness writer, avid snowboarder, and I'm also a medical marijuana patient. Like many of the million people who are living with multiple sclerosis, I'm in pain every single day. And sometimes my nerves are so raw that if you brushed up against me in an elevator, I'd scream. I can't sleep at night from the pain, and sometimes the spasms in my legs are so intense they will wake me up throughout the night. I've tried the strongest prescription medications available, and I'm going to tell you, they do not work. In fact, they leave me in a stupor, and most of the time, it's impossible to even live your life. Now, I've tried medical marijuana, and I'm going to tell you something, it works. If you'd like more information about medical marijuana, you can contact the Marijuana Policy Project at mpp.org or call 1-877-JOIN-MPP.
Keep your cannabis cravings under control. Feed your mind with CannabisRadio.com. Chronicling the latest cannabis industry news and headlines. Welcome back to the State of Cannabis. Once again, here's Dave Inman.
Welcome back to the State of Cannabis, folks. I'm your host, Dave Inman. Tonight we have Darren Babin from Normal in Phoenix, as well as Kathy Inman, State Director for Normal in Arizona. We've been talking about cannabis and potential studies that could have happened down at the U of A. The blockage that occurred from one of our state senators, and how the Arizona Veterans Assistance Committee did their best to highlight this potential injustice. I mean, it was something that it appeared was sailed through the House. It was a
block of democracy, Dave. It was a block of democracy. When one senator stands up and you have 52 to 5, that passes the House 52 to 5. You don't have one senator stand up and say, "I'm sorry, we're not going to hear that." So, Darren, I think our committee did a great job, and I'm proud to have shed light on this subject. Absolutely, and I want to shed light on more things about the VA. I think we've got more work to do, quite honestly.
Absolutely, and again, it wasn't really a potential injustice. It was actually a block of the democratic process, and that in and of itself is a major issue. And I think, look, the VA, the big VA hospital here in Phoenix that had all the issues, that had people physically dying because their appointments were getting moved back on them. That actually happened in District 20.
It really happened.
In District 20. And I can truly say, whose district was that? Kimberly Yee's. And I don't think that actually is any kind of mystery to anyone that's been around Normal and having dealt with AVAC and dealt with this whole process with respect to trying to get the kind of assistance from our elected officials for these veterans, these guys that, listen, from the time our effort began until the time we actually made an agreement with her office to withdraw the recall, over 950 people committed suicide. That's a real number. I mean, we can say 22 people a day died, and that's real. But when you really look at the bigger number and say, you know what, from the time we began trying to work with our elected official, when she dug her heels in, here's the real number. It was almost 1,000 people that committed suicide. And when you look at that problem, that's one problem with the veterans. You look at what they're facing right now, Dave, and them being able to even have an open, honest dialogue with their doctors at the VA and say, listen, these pharmaceuticals, they're horrible for me. When I take the side effects, they're the thoughts they give me, they're horrible. It doesn't work for me. I can't sleep at night. It gives me the jitters. But when I have used cannabis, it actually works. But I'm afraid I'm going to lose my benefits. How are they supposed to react? What are they supposed to do? There's no help for them. There's definitely no help for them out of Kimberly Yee's office.
No, and there's no help for them out of Senator John McCain's office, evidently, too. And here's a veteran who has lived in Arizona for, I don't know, most of his life, I think. I'm not quite sure. But for as long as I've been here, and I've been here 20 plus years, and he's a veteran, and he allows this to go on in this state. And I just can't get over it.
Well, and that's really the crux of it all. When you think about it, obviously cannabis federally is illegal. So, the fact that there's anything in any state that actually affords a person the privilege, and I'm not even going to say right, because it's far from rights, unless you're in Colorado or Washington, but a privilege to be able to utilize cannabis to ease whatever ails you. And that's really the crux of it all. And having the senators jump on board, obviously, it's a tough putt. So at the end of the day, I would say that it's probably our duty to educate these people. If it's something that is something that we hold so near and dear to our hearts, something that we know to be true and self-evident, then why isn't it that we aren't educating these people? Rather, what we do is we shake our fists in anger. And at the same time, this is what they've been taught, that in fact, cannabis is something that will harm you. It could make you go crazy. You may have less gray matter. You may have less IQ. You may be sterile. You may go crazy. You may have a semen-encrusted pants after smoking cannabis.
I can't believe you got it in. I can't.
Yeah, but Dave, listen. I don't think it boils down to us having to become angry and raise our fists in the pitchfork.
No,
that's what we do. That's what we do. Our whole point is that rather than doing that, perhaps what we should be doing is a proactive education. We never should get mad at somebody. As soon as you get mad at a person in a discussion, you've lost that discussion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ignorance it's not a sin, but what is blatant dishonesty and misrepresentation to the people, and a lack of willingness to be educated.
A lack of desire to learn something new, or something that isn't there warm and fuzzy.
And I think when you boil it down, when a lawmaker is unwilling to look at a lot of overwhelming facts that are now starting to come to light, because almost 50% of our nation is a medical marijuana country. Almost 50%.
Yep.
At this point, the kind of information and data that is starting to come back to our country's leaders is enough to allow them to become educated and realize that our country has changed its position. When you look at the Gallup polls, this country has now changed its mind towards marijuana. There's no lies there.
Absolutely.
Homicides are down in Colorado too. I mean, what